Հետևումս Ararat լեռն է։
Behind me is Ararat, one of our national and religious symbols, whose image will no longer be on Armenia's entry and exit stamps here as of November 1st. According to the authorities, the removal of Ararat from the stamp is part of the Real Armenia ideology. It is unclear how, for example, the image of Ivazovsky against the backdrop of Ararat on a recently issued Armenian dram banknote fits into this ideology, given that Ivazovsky did not live or create in either historical or real Armenia. The government passed a decision on changing the stamp as a non-reported item on its agenda. According to the National Security Service, this is merely a technical change to reduce the risks of forgery and to improve the recognizability, clear visibility, and legibility of the markings. For some reason, the heavy burden of clarifying the controversial decision was quickly taken on by the newly appointed minister, Arsen Torosyan, even though the ministry he heads has nothing to do with border crossing stamps.
The justifications for the decision are very simple. The stamps have been brought into line with modern requirements for border crossings, as well as with the ideology of Real Armenia.
The visual difference between the old and new versions of the stamp is the removal of Ararat and the formulation border control checkpoint. According to Torosyan, some opposition circles have launched a new information attack against this decision. He notes that in many countries, such stamps are no longer even in use.
This is another attempt to erase and make people forget the history of Hayt, that is, Armenian history. In order to make people forget, the eye must not see it. You remove it from the mind and from sight, so one does not read it, does not remember it. In other words, the gradual mancourtization of our people is underway. It is a program for the loss of memory.
This topic has caused great enthusiasm in the Turkish press and on social media. The Turkish NTV, in its coverage, emphasized that Armenia has taken this step against the backdrop of normalizing relations with Turkey, and Haber 7 attributed the previous refusal to abandon the symbol of Mount Ararat to Armenian stubbornness.
The Armenian government, which had given a green light for the Zangezur corridor connecting Turkey with the Turkic world, is now abandoning its claim regarding Mount Ararat.
According to the ruling party MP Artur Hovhannisyan, state symbols should derive from the principle of statehood and should not send dangerous messages to neighbors.
The Republic of Armenia proceeds from its state symbols, and the stamp of the Republic of Armenia, which is imprinted in passports, must express the symbolism related to the state of the Republic of Armenia. The state symbols, and therefore, should also be devoid of emotional, sentimental symbols.
It was 2 years ago that Nikol Pashinyan said, "All our problems lie between Ararat and Aragats, between dream and reality." It is interesting that in the symbol of the ruling party, one can see an image resembling that dream, Ararat. Pashinyan uses relations with neighbors as an example.
Imagine you have a legitimate territory defined by a cadastre, but you keep a picture at home that symbolizes that your neighbor is not worthy of what he has, and every year you refresh the colors of that picture.
And according to the doctor of philology, Haykazun Alvurtsyan, Ararat has always been in Armenia, not within the current state, but it is a part of eastern Armenia, and it is not a bad thing to remember that there is a homeland that was yours.
The Armenian people have always rallied around Mount Ararat. Even if they lost their statehood, the hope of its restoration was again that mountain. It was restored again around Armenian statehood. Over the years, haven't we lost our kingdom several times and restored it again around Ararat? Now they are depriving us of a future.
He recalls 2008, when before a football match with Turkey, the symbol of Ararat was removed from the national team's logo. According to the doctor, a people that renounces its history has not only no future, but also no present. But he is convinced that it will not be possible to remove Mount Ararat from the Armenians' hearts and memory. Simon Hovhannisyan, Levon Voskanyan, ReOpen Media.